Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Jessica Graham Robinson, and you are here for Breath, Body, Soul. So, today, one of the things that I want to talk about, introduce you to a little bit, is just coming to a place where you have a more intimate relationship with your body. So often I see with people that that's not the case, that we are in these bodies, but we don't actually have the depth of experience that we could be having and health actually, because we are not tuned in. So your body sends you lots and lots of messages, like constantly. Not only is your brain is gathering information from your senses as you take things in through your external world, but another thing that is happening is your body is then also sending you messages, so that every sensation you feel, every emotion actually that moves through you as well, even the thoughts that come to us are often coming to us for a reason. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean anything esoteric. What I mean is that our bodies are smart. Our bodies have wisdom. We have wisdom in our bones. And so one of the things that I want to begin to do with you today is to tap into that, to recognize it, to honor it, to listen to it, so that we can be more attuned creatures that live in right relationship with our bodies, and with all of the beings and people and things around us as well. So just to make a very quick note in the beginning, many people have a contraction, tightness, movement patterns that have become limited. And oftentimes those will be the places that I have seen is that oftentimes they are in the hips, like in the pelvic area somewhere, that is limiting the movement of the hips, the freedom, or in the shoulder girdle, in the same way limiting the freedom of movement that really should be there, and in the spine in general. And so I'm going to include neck in that, right? So ideally, naturally, in almost all cases, there is a freedom in the shoulder girdle, in the pelvic girdle, and in the spinal column. And those are the places in our bodies where we have really the most movement. Sure, you can move your elbow, but it really only moves open and closed. Same with your knees, open and closed. We have lots of movement with our fingers and lots of movement with our feet. But when we have restriction in the pelvis or the shoulder girdle or the spinal column, it can have severe impacts on our life and health. So that's why those are so important. So if you are sitting down with me, like I am right now, if you notice, do you feel any kind of pulling happening anywhere at all? So one of the most common places that there's pulling is right in here in the kind of the hip flexor area, and pulling up so that the knees are rising up too much, because when they are above the hips, then you're going to experience some discomfort. You're going to experience the lower back wanting to round behind you. And once that happens, the whole thing is no longer sustainable. Okay, so I'm all about sustainability when it comes to the body, and our daily practices and life in general. And that kind of thing is not sustainable. So just like if you are hungry, you need to eat. If you're thirsty, you need to drink. If you have to go to the bathroom, you need to go to the bathroom. If you need to sneeze, you need to sneeze. In Ayurveda, it is is very much frowned upon to stop any of those bodily urges. So if you have to expel anything or have a need in any way whatsoever, it's important that you take care of that. It's very important. So that is first. If you need to go to the bathroom right now, press pause. If you need to get a drink of water or just want to have one by your side, if it's a little chilly and you wish you had a sweater on, go get one. So you need to listen to those signals that your body is giving you. So one of the very first things that we're going to do today is just to tune in. So again, if you're sitting and the knees are up, I forgot to finish with that point. If you're sitting and the knees are up, that's a signal for you that you need to sit up on something higher. So you might have a yoga bolster like this. They come in many different shapes and sizes. You might not have one of these, but maybe you have a dense blanket like the yoga type blankets, Mexican blankets, wool or cotton, but anything that's dense. You would not use fluffy down or down substitute kind of thing to sit on. You want something dense so that when you sit on it, it's not going to go from 8 inches, 10 inches tall to 2, right? Most likely, if you need something, you're gonna need something significant. So, and you want a density, a stability to it. That's really important. So let's lie down to start out with. And what you're gonna do is find a place that you're comfortable. And again, like I said, if you need a layer, like a blanket, if you need a sweater, if you need socks on, if you need anything, go get it. Be good to yourself. That is first and foremost here. This is all about self-care and self-love. So you're gonna lie back, and we're gonna, if this is comfortable for you, great. If it's not, find a way for it to be comfortable. Maybe the floor's too hard and you need a blanket underneath you, or maybe you want to do this on your bed. So what we're going to do is separate your feet. Your knees are bent. You can let the knees fall together so that there's no holding. You don't need to be holding your legs and not thinking about them flopping one way or the other, but instead your feet a little bit wider than your hips, so that your knees can fall together and just hold one another. All right, so now you're gonna gently find your spine long, make any adjustments you need to make in order to be really comfortable. We're gonna place the hands on the abdomen so that you're almost making a triangle, not necessarily on purpose, although you can if you want. This is one of the forms of yoni mudra, the triangle. But your thumbs are right at your navel or just below, and the middle fingers should probably be at the top of your pubic bone. So you're just resting. Rest your hands, rest your head. Find a comfortable place for your head. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, then I would suggest to do that. If not, then you don't want to look around, because we're not trying to be receiving sensory input externally, where instead we want to look inside. So with the eyes closed or very still, first you're going to just begin to notice the floor underneath you. See if you can begin to allow your bones to soften into the floor, your muscles to relax as you trust the floor and trust that you can let go here. So when you take in a deeper in-breath, a soft, deep in-breath, you might notice, if your hands are relaxed, that they move further away from one another. Just try your best to keep your attention on noticing the movement in your hands, which is happening from the movement under your hands in your abdomen, which is happening from the breathing that you're doing. Breathing in through your nostrils, if it's possible. You want to breathe through the nose. And let's take an exhale through the mouth. You do a couple more times like that, breathing in through the nose, nice and deep, but soft. Feel the hands expand out. And then exhaling through your mouth. And again, inhale. Letting go. As you continue to lie here with some focus on the breath, mostly the focus on the breath so far has been on observing, just having awareness of the movement and expansion and contraction. The next thing I want you to do, if you can, is to begin to expand your breath downward purposely. So if your breath is mostly in your chest, we're going to try to expand so much that the diaphragm will pull down and expand the organs down and expand the pelvic floor downward even. So this one also, if you want, you can straighten your legs. If your back feels comfortable like this, then straighten your legs. If it doesn't, that's okay. The arms can be anywhere, but this is a nice place just to have them on the bones of the pelvis. And we're going to relax your pelvis, relax your pelvic floor. So it's really important right now that you're comfortable and that you're warm enough. When you take your next breath in and expand the diaphragm down, see if you can feel a corresponding downward expansion of the pelvis. Just very small. It's very subtle. And then as you exhale, notice that the pelvic floor will naturally contract back up. So breathing in with the diaphragm expanding downward, notice the pelvic bowl, the pelvic floor opening just slightly. And then when you exhale, notice that it's contracting back up. And this contraction is not a voluntary contraction. This is just a very gentle movement. And keep going with your breath. Very gentle movement that you discover in your pelvic floor. That's natural for everyone if we can relax the pelvic floor muscles, which is what we want to do right now.
So we'll do this a few more breaths. Just discover that for yourself. Then when you're ready, just start to come back to your natural breath and stretch your toes and roll your ankles and bend your knees. And we're just going to bring the knees upward to a comfortable place, letting the knees part so that your right knee is in your right arm and your left knee is in your left arm. Just gently rocking back and forth, breathing. Your breath here doesn't have to be anything in particular, just natural, free-flowing, maybe a little bit deeper than your unconscious breath would be. But it doesn't have to fit into any box. It doesn't have to be any particular length. This is really intuitive. As you move back and forth, right to left, you're just noticing, how do I feel myself on the floor? What do my bones feel like as they come into contact with the floor? And then you can let this movement become bigger. Maybe your knees come all the way to the floor on each side or one side. Maybe they don't. Do what feels good to you. The whole point is that we are opening up and establishing this trusting and intimate relationship with our bodies. And so we wouldn't want to do anything that felt forceful or too quick or uncaring at all. If it feels good to drop your knees off to the left, then just you can even roll all the way onto your left and make that little adjustment to pull your left shoulder up underneath. And then let's take the right arm, the elbow up, squeeze the shoulder back, and just see what it feels like to give yourself a big stretch. Now actually make a yawn of your body and reach. So you're using your muscles here. Stretch. If it feels good, look over to the right. And then slowly you can either bring your knees up, or even more gentle would be to bring the arm back. Take a deep breath in. Exhale through the mouth. And in your own time, bringing both knees and both arms back up. And now we'll drop the knees off to the right, if that feels good. And then a stretch, starting with the elbow. Reach, squeezing the muscles into the bones. Reaching out to whatever degree feels good. Like a positive, just gently outside of the comfort zone, but no pain here. And if it feels good, you can also look out to the left. Take a deep breath, filling up, filling up, filling up. And then again, slow and gentle, really super sweet. Bring that arm back over to your right side and pause. Taking another deep breath in, you can exhale through the mouth, making a little sound. And then both knees and arms coming back up. Slow, soft, gentle rocks, side to side. And now we're going to place the feet on the floor. Separate your feet so that they are about as wide as a yoga mat, if you are using a yoga mat. You also don't need to be using a yoga mat at this moment. Your feet are a little wide. They're wider than your hips, if you can see that with what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread my toes and I'm going to engage and lift my arches, my ankles, and then I'm going to open my arms like I was about to give a big hug. But first I'm just going to open so I can make sure to get all of it in, right? So big open, big breath. And then slowly we're going to let the knees go over to the right. And you're activating just in the same way that the feet are active, just in the same way that we did that yawning stretch before. You're activated in the legs as you reach the knee, your left knee, out away from your head. And then we're going to bring it back down. And we're going to move to the other side. Active in the feet, active in the arms as you open, active in the legs, especially this right leg as the knee reaches away from your head, not down to the floor. I'm not going to push my knee down. That would be not good for my knee. So I'm going to push my knee and stretch like a yawn, the way that you tense when you yawn. And then I'm going to bring it back in. And now I'm just going to do a similar action, but a little softer, slowly, in whatever time feels right to you. You're just going to move back and forth. Breathing and back and forth. So one of the things that's happening when we move this way instead of what we were just doing is you're kind of getting a little bit of massage in the posterior hip or the butt, right? Your butt is your posterior hip. It's the back of your hip where your thigh bone connects into your pelvis. All right, back to a center place. Deep breath in, roll onto either side that feels good for you. And then using both hands, you can slowly press up. Let that take a little bit of time. It's not quick at all. I'm going to center myself for you here. And then for this one, you might sit up on something if this is uncomfortable in any way, or if you feel like you can't get on your sitting bones, or if you feel like your lower back or your upper back is rounding, then you would want to sit up higher on a blanket or something like we talked about earlier. So for this, your feet are a little distance away, so you have this kind of a diamond shape. And we're going to just take the right knee in, or let's mirror. You guys can mirror me. Take your left knee in and cross it over and open it up. Almost like a book. Cross it over, open it up. Cross it over, open it up. And you're trying to do this with your hands, and your breath is natural. Of course, your leg is doing something to help you out here, but the emphasis is on letting the arms kind of figure it out and the coordination between the two. All right, so you're just kind of stirring things in the hips. You're getting, again, one of those posterior hip massages a little bit. All right, one last round, both sides. And open it back up. So right now, very important that you're on your sitting bones. So just be honest with yourself. If anything feels like it's pulling you backward, or if your knees are up higher than your hips, then you definitely want to sit up on something.
If you're not sure, you can first try pulling your butt muscles out, or your butt flesh, all of that. And you can try scooting your butt back and see if that works. All right, so you can be as wide as you want here. That also makes it a little bit easier. Take the feet further away. So right now we're gonna do is just acknowledge this pelvis, acknowledge the pelvic bowl. And you can think of it like a bowl, I like to think of it almost like the crescent moon, that which is a bowl in a way, in image form. So you're gonna think about that bowl, relaxing the pelvis, and you can take your hands to your lower legs or your knees, and we're just gonna start making little circles. Little circles. Look at me, I'm making a big circle. Make a little circle. Little circle. So imagine the very center of your pelvis, there's a dot, let's say, and on the bottom, your pelvic floor. And imagine you're starting out with tiny circles and you're gonna spiral outward and get a little bigger. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Don't pay attention to what direction. It doesn't matter which direction you're circling in, because we're gonna switch. Just commit to where you are. And we're making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we're switching directions. So we've got this big, slow circle, breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. And now our circle is going to get smaller, just gradually. So it's still pretty big, but it's just going to start spiraling back inward. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Now it's starting to get smaller still. Smaller. You can feel your sitting bones as you go in that spiral. You can feel your sitting bones more as you lean to each side. And now that little circle is getting even smaller as it comes closer to that dot in the center. We're going to call that dot, that bindu, your perineum, your pelvic floor, right in the middle. Very tiny. And then still. So now we're going to slowly make your way over onto your hands and knees. As you do this, you want your knees to be at least hip distance apart. They could be slightly more than that, but definitely not less. So for me, I'm gonna say I have about maybe 7 inches between my knees right now, and that feels good to me. With my hands, I'm gonna really spread the hands out. So my fingers are spread, right? But also my hands are spread away from one another. So if I spread my fingers and my hands are pretty close, then the thumbs will only be like an inch or two apart. I'm gonna move open so that if you're on a yoga mat, the pinky fingers are pretty close to the edge, if not touching the edge, or even off the edge, depending on your shoulders. So you're gonna spread the fingers wide and really kind of claw the floor, having a lot of weight in this row of metacarpals. right here, especially this one, the index metacarpal, and all 10 finger pads. So we're gonna just like kind of do a like a zigzag, like a side winding snake movement. And you're breathing in through the nose and out through the nose or the mouth, whatever feels good right now. And then we're going to start to allow the head to slowly even add its little part to this movement. And the hips are definitely adding their part to this movement. So the arms stay straight, or they could bend slightly if you wanted them to for some reason. But the heart is soft. If you notice, I'm not doing this. I'm not gonna push and do this kind of a thing because that would not be free. So I'm relaxing, I'm softening the heart and the whole chest cavity down toward the floor. In the belly, I'm dropping my belly down toward the floor and I'm side winding. And I'm letting, again, as I said, the head, the neck, the whole spine, just more and more, everything becomes a part. The breath becomes a part of this movement. And then you may even want to move it into a circle so that your head is coming up and your tailbone is coming up. I want you to not think so much, but just move in ways that feel free flowing. It doesn't matter what it looks like. All that matters is what it feels like. And you can keep it pretty slow here. The idea is that you're getting more and more awareness in the body and the breath, and more intuitive with your movements. So at some point, we're coming back to almost a still point. We're softening back to the midline. And then we're going to relax the tops of the feet down. And then if it's comfortable for your knees, you're going to sink your hips back toward your feet. Maybe take your knees a little wider and either rest the elbows down, dropping the head, or stretch the arms out a little, dropping the head to the floor. Just tune into your breath right here. If this is uncomfortable in any way, you can put blankets under your knees to soften here. You can, if it's uncomfortable to close the knee joint that much, you can come up. You could have a bolster or a pillow underneath your knees, under your butt. You could have a bolster between your feet so that you're actually sitting up a little higher and then resting on the elbows. Anything is possible here. And what you really want to do is find the place where you're taking the best care of yourself and meeting you where you're at today. It could change any given day, right? A lot. Especially as women, we can change throughout the month and throughout our lives a lot as we might become mothers or caretakers, or we may just be feeling more stiff or more soft or more whatever you are feeling on this day. Honor that is my point. So slowly from that child's pose that you're doing here, we're gonna just take a deep breath and start to walk your hands closer to your knees so
So then if you don't have a bolster, you'll be sitting on your feet if that's comfortable. Or if it's not comfortable to sit on your feet and you don't have a bolster, you can grab a blanket, or you can go back to the cross-legged position where we kind of started with something underneath your hips. So you're just going to take a moment here. Hopefully you're right up on your sitting bones. Your feet are kind of resting back and under the hips, slightly out to the side, but not out. And your spine feels fluid, right? You can make like that serpentine movement, front back, side to side. There's movement there. And so we're going to find that place where all of the curves are present. We have a forward curve in the neck, a slight backward curve in the upper back, and a forward curve in the lower back. And we just find a place where all of those curves feel present, not accentuated, but just right. So there is a floatiness to the way of being when there's freedom in the joints, when we're in touch with our breath. I'm just gonna have you, if it's comfortable, sit in whatever way, or if sitting is not comfortable, you found out, then lie down on your back again. And we'll just close the eyes if that's comfortable. And breathe a little more deeply and softly at the same time. Soften your jaw, soften your face. Soften any expectations for yourself, for your day, for anyone else in this moment. Just allow yourself to be. Notice if you feel any sensations in your body. Notice if your body feels more relaxed or warmer. Notice if you feel any vibration going on, or even any movement, like a little rocking or side to side, anything at all. Notice if you feel your heart beating and your body moving slightly with that beat. So bring a hand to your lower belly, a hand to your heart. And softly, your eyes can be open or closed here. We're going to close this sweet little practice today by saying thank you. And I hope you thank your body for all that it does. We so often just forget about the body, but as I said, it creates such so many layers of richness when we can learn to be aware, when we can learn to listen and oftentimes do what it's telling us, line up our bodies better, even about choices in life, what choices will serve us. Oftentimes, if we probably should be saying no to something, the body will tell you. There will be a contraction or a downward pulling or something that feels different than when the answer should be yes. So the next time you are struggling with a question, maybe it's even something simple like what to eat. Maybe you're at a restaurant even, and you're trying to decide between two dishes. A super simple practice is to just tune into the body, maybe put a hand on your body, and
read one of them. It can be silently. This doesn't have to be a display in the restaurant, but read it and just notice what you're feeling in your body versus then read the other one and notice what you feel. And if you feel nothing different, it might be that they're both a no or both a yes. So the better you get at listening, the more you come to yourself to do these simple practices over time, you establish this a relationship with yourself where you know what a yes is and you know what a no is, and there doesn't need to be hesitation about should I or shouldn't I say yes or say no, but it's just listening and doing what is right, being in right relationship with yourself. So I'm going to say thank you greatly, namaste, and as you move through your week this week, think about being intuitive. Think about being a little more fluid, maybe your emotions being a little more circular, and exploring range of motion without pushing. There's a big difference between exploring, like going to the edge of your comfort zone and exploring a new movement, versus pushing yourself. And that is not ever what I'm asking you to do, at least not in that way. All right, so many blessings. Thank you.